Before we talk about predictions for 2025, I want to do a little foreplay. I want to set the table like a good host with a quick, dirty rundown of the past year. So 2024, in one word, I'll do even better. 2 letters, AI. The year when tech companies fondled each other's balance sheets in a race to lead the technology revolution, turning one's expenses into another's profits. Over 185 billion was poured into AI data centers, propelling NVIDIA to a $3.5 trillion market cap. Proving nerds can sign breasts too. You win this one, Jensen. By the way, how did Lisa Su win CEO of the year? Is she gonna breakdance at the Olympics next? Google also proved monopolies can still do more than buybacks and ugly glasses when their breakthrough Wilhelm quantum chip solved ridiculously complex math problems in seconds, which is about twice as long as the average TikTok viewer's attention span. This chip takes 5 minutes to solve a problem that would take conventional supercomputers around 10 septillion years, which is also Zuckerberg's favorite number. By the way, a septillion is 1 followed by 25 zeros, or as we call it, OpenAI's dev team. SpaceX shattered records with 138 launches, unsurprising given how many kids Elon Musk has launched into the world. I'm just shocked that all of these were from the same company. Self-driving also surged with Tesla's first fully autonomous vehicle, which is giving us all more free time for, well, more launches. Waymo also expanded AI-driven mobility, but they made less flamethrowers, so no one really cared. Clean energy fell short of AI's growing power demands, marking the end of wind and decline of solar investments. Turns out the only thing in 2024 that was limitless was Ozempic, and the only thing trending was ruining priceless masterpieces. Actually, that makes 2 limitless energies. Meanwhile, nuclear energy entered a new golden age, its rock star era, with natural gas on the drums and oil on lead guitar making a comeback of the ages. Rift, baby, rift. The US elected Donald Trump for winning the meme war, bringing back his old money printer energy and the new bro team entourage to the global stage. It's just enough FU energy to get China to butt pucker a bit in the face of a new potential tariff war that could inflame tensions with our AI baby mama Taiwan, bringing more constraints to an already short supply in tech. And you know what rhymes with tariff war? Inflation, something that Jerome Powell is already anticipating to be tweeted his way as he continued to cut rates well above his inflation targets and remains defeated in attempts to stifle crypto degeneracy as Fartcoin makes all-time new highs and gives him the fiscal equivalent of pink eye. Bitcoin also managed to break 100K and bears minds as magic energy money continues to battle its way into investment portfolios as either rampant speculation or the path to freedom from digital tyranny. So now we ask the question, what the f do you got in store 2025? Prediction videos are hard because it's like taking an exam for a class that you have next semester. You don't know nothing, you've been working your way up to this, but it's still your discovery where you're going to learn new information that will provide new insights that will likely change your viewpoint or perspective as the year continues, right? Still, doing these yearly prediction videos is a ton of fun for me because at the end of the year, I get to look back and go, I was right about that and that and that, and I just love feeding my ego. You can't feed the ego unless you put in the work, and I put in a lot of work into this video. I read through every single major bank's economic projections for 2025, their expectations, their targets, their risks, their concerns. I even read through the government's projections, which, by the way, still concludes a risk assessment of the '08 financial crisis, which is the perfect embodiment of what kind of level they operate at. So if you average out the big bank projections, you get about 6,300. If you then take the median, you get 6,500. My projection is actually for 6,800. I expect more innovation than the market does. We are in the exponential age, in my opinion. And so I'm starting to buy into the belief that it makes sense that the mega cap companies are outperforming everything because they're kind of taking over everything, and AI is taking over everything faster than I predicted. And I'm wondering if we start to hit a point where the innovations in AI, rather than being kind of a semi-annual basis, start to occur on a quarterly basis and then on a monthly basis where everything just starts really cranking up. And that includes for innovations in robotics, which I'm going to bring back my 2024 prediction of it being surprisingly the year of robotics. I think that's coming this year. I actually believe that with a lot more conviction than I did last year. Last year was a bit of a more wild card prediction. I think we're already starting to see it kind of play out. especially from some Chinese companies. So I'm looking for a huge innovation in robotics. I'm looking for self-driving to become a thing this year as well. Maybe not on a mass scale, but I do expect it to have way more adoption than people believe. In tandem with that, I do also hold the belief that Uber, this will be the beginning of the end for Uber. They're going to be a blockbuster story, in my opinion. Some people think that Tesla is going to use Uber for self-driving. No, they're not. I think, show me a case where Elon didn't create something himself and instead created a partnership with someone else. That doesn't happen. That's not the Tesla way. Okay, especially when he just bought out X. He's gonna turn X into the everything app. We're already seeing him start to do that. So they're gonna probably integrate that with X for the ride sharing and stuff through their own Robotaxi program. And then I also expect huge innovations and tons of spending in AI, of course. We've already seen Microsoft commit to spending $80 billion in AI infrastructure, which is almost half what we saw spent in 2024. Now, I do expect the quantum stocks that went on insane rallies this year, your IonQ, your Qubit, your RGTI, to all get hammered this year as people realize that quantum has a lot further to go than they think. A lot of these stocks are priced for these innovations to occur within the next 12 months. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think that happens. And I think these stocks get clapped. As is represented also in my investment holdings, I think biotech is yet again another wild card that could take off this year. I am waiting for the AI programs that have won prizes in 2024, but haven't really related to new innovations yet in this space, because it does move somewhat slowly to suddenly take off. And when these names take off, they go absolutely parabolic. So I would not be surprised if the biotech sector actually ends up being one of the best returns this year. I do expect uranium to continue its parabolic run. I think we're in the midst of a 10-year bull market there. I have no fears with any of my uranium investments and no reason really to sell them unless I'm just looking to time highs and lows. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Trump is going to be in office, and lots of people's takes on how this year is going to go are warped by their political biases. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I don't have any. I don't really care. All right. I don't hate or love the guy as much as anyone that I know. So when I look at this, I see lots of potential bearish policies and lots of potential bullish policies. And the bearish policies, I think, come first before the bullish ones, okay? I'm expecting tariffs before we actually get corporate tax cuts. I expect corporate tax cuts to come like next year, and I expect tariffs to come this year. Now, lots of people are saying that tariffs are going to increase inflation. I've been seeing this all over the socials. Not true. We can look at the data. We've had tariffs before. We could easily look at the data, and we could see that the economic drag caused by tariffs tends to prevent it from becoming more of an inflation issue, okay? So if there's more tariffs than expected, I wouldn't expect more inflation. I would actually expect more drag on GDP and maybe less performance on the indexes because of that. If we get less tariffs, I expect less of a drag on GDP, and therefore I would probably start to increase my projections as well. If we do get the corporate tax cuts sooner than expected, then I would then raise my targets. I would expect the market to rally on that, as it's a increase on your quarter over quarter earnings. And so it's just going to bring the market, it's going to price in more earnings, it's going to raise it higher. Very simple. There's other policies as well, but I think those two are the major ones that everyone's worried about, and those will probably be the biggest market movers. Now, Trump also said that he was going to do huge deficit cuts, but he wasn't going to cut any of the major spending plans, okay? Your welfare and your social security are not going to get touched. So I don't think anything significant occurs when it comes to making the government more efficient, or DOGE. If it does occur, it will probably lead to one of my first predictions, which is that this market actually is inbound for a large correction this beginning this first half of the year. But at the end of the second quarter is what I'm expecting. A visit down to the 100-day EMA, which could bring it back into like the 500,000 range to 4,800 is my first expectation coming into the year, as we do get more of the bearish policies. And typically when you have two monster years back to back, 2023 was a monster year, then 2024 was a monster year as well. Typically, the third year in a row isn't a huge run. Just looking at the historical data, it usually is a bit more muted if it's bullish at all. Sometimes years like this can trade completely sideways, like we saw in 2022, following 2020 and 2021. I think that that's not the case because I hold no faith in the government to actually fix any of the changes. And this is one of my biggest predictions. The Trump administration that everyone expects to save the economy won't save squat. The economy is screwed, and there's no real policies that are going to fix the real issues we have. And everything socially and economically kind of stems from the fact that there is a huge wealth disparity, okay? The rich are getting exponentially richer, and the poor are getting exponentially poorer, more poor, and the gap keeps widening. That gap continuing to widen leads to social degradation, leads to more looking at social media and being like, why is this person doing so well? Why am I not doing as well? Leads to more political turmoil, leads to more of this virtue signaling in these policies that are feel good but don't actually change anything. We're already seeing a lot of this, right? I think this gets worse. And I think this leads to policies that actually make the rich richer and don't actually help anything. And I don't think anything Trump is setting out to do actually fixes that. Now, in the short term, maybe I'll be caught off guard, but what that means is that Bitcoin will likely go a lot higher, the market will go a lot higher, and gold will likely go a lot higher. All of these are running really hot right now, and that includes Bitcoin. Lots of people think that Bitcoin's in this cyclical cycle, and it's going to keep going through this normal cyclical life cycle. It's just how Bitcoin works, right? Every time there's a halvening, it goes on a massive bull run. Well, every time there's a halvening, the halvening is smaller than it was before, which means it has less effect on Bitcoin than it did before. And there's no real adoption in Bitcoin. People, I would say maybe even half of the people who hold Bitcoin are there as speculators. When half the people who own your asset are speculators, talking to you, MSTR, that leads to still huge corrections. When crypto hits the mainstream, where it is actually a currency that people use for their day-to-day spending or viewed as an economic diversification tool that is substantially different from investing in tech or just diversifying across different currencies, that is when or even as an alternative to bonds, that is when Bitcoin takes off, goes parabolic, stops having major crashes, and also gives up a lot of the volatility that it has. It'll go for one final parabolic run, and then the retracements you'll see will become less and less exaggerated. We're not out of that yet. And in fact, I think the life cycle that people are used to is dead. So I expect Bitcoin to likely continue to outperform the S&P 500, but not outperform a lot of the mega growth exponential tech companies. I think Tesla could again outperform Bitcoin. I think that in the long term, maybe not this year, but in the long term, we'll see quantum stocks outperform Bitcoin. We'll see biotech outperform Bitcoin. There's just not enough reasons yet and not enough true adoption within the crypto space for me to make the pivot there to making more content about it as opposed to the stock market. So if you were hoping that this would be the year where I would become like a big crypto trader, we're not there yet. Although I will play on meme coins and have been more frequently in 2024. And the crypto trends and the economic catastrophizing trends kind of work in tandem to build what is the trend for what I'm doing. Why are more people trading options? Why are more people sports gambling? Why are all these gambling sites? Why can you gamble on whether a certain actor will get a cold during the filming of the new season of whatever show? You can bet on everything, and suddenly everyone is betting on everything. This appetite for these riskier avenues for wealth generation that seem more of a roll of the dice is an act of desperation from a population that is coming to the realization, whether consciously or subconsciously, that the system really isn't working in their favor the way it has in past years. We, as millennials, as a millennial, are the first generation to do worse than our parents. Okay, at 40 years old, you are substantially less financially set than someone who was 40 years old 40 years ago. Okay, the 70-year-olds today are richer than 70-year-olds 40 years ago, and 40-year-olds are poorer than 40-year-olds 40 years ago. You following me? This is not a good trend. This is a terrible trend. This is a trend from a society that no longer cares about how their kids are doing and instead is more concerned about making themselves richer, making the rich richer, protecting the rich, not taking care of the little guys as the wealth gap continues to grow. And that naturally pushes people. It enhances their risk curve because it's an act of desperation. And I think lots of people really haven't caught on to this trend. And I'm not saying that this presents opportunities in companies like DraftKings, because there is so much competition. There's so much demand. Half of college students right now have a gambling app on their phone, and 1/3 of them use it on a weekly basis. That's an insane statistic. But this statistic does play well, one, for my business, but also for the markets. It creates more opportunities. Those opportunities are going to become even more enhanced if we get things like AI traders, where rallies are going to be extended, markets are going to go higher than you expect, and that's included because of the increased options activity, which already has been since 2020, increasing daily rallies, where instead of moving up 6% on one day, things can move 10% on one day. This will also increase Bitcoin and gold, as well as gold is seen as the hedge for economic catastrophe, not just inflation. Bitcoin, same way. These assets will go parabolic, and these opportunities, both in the exponential technological age and in the gambling age, is what I want to call it, are going to be like this is like the last 10 years to really secure the bag, to get the money as fast as you can. Get in the markets, get exposure to these. I know there's going to be times where these markets are going to have corrections, as is the normal cycle when you live in a credit boom and bust type environment. That's just what it is today. But you not getting access to this technology, not getting invested in these opportunities, these could be the train leaving the station for the next 100 decades before some technology that I can't even imagine becomes the new big thing. But it's hard to imagine what comes after generative AI. Like what new company actually becomes produced, because generative AI does literally everything. It learns what you learn in a decade in 10 minutes. It operates on a speed and level that the human mind can't even comprehend. Now, we might be a decade from that, but it is coming, and this is your chance to get invested before that occurs, okay? Tesla will still be my number one investment heading into this year. I don't care how high it goes. I want to make sure that I'm buying every dip and kind of selling the intermediate highs, locking in some gains. And I want to keep exposure to AI names, kind of playing the highs and lows in those. And the same with it comes to energy, because nuclear is going to make energy cost next to nothing. If energy costs next to nothing, and technology is moving exponentially, and robots are doing all the work so they don't have to sleep, so they can work more hours, they don't get tired, and they are hyper efficient. The future is something that is going to be really hard to even fathom what that even looks like, what that even is, how that's even represented when we're talking about something like a stock market. It's going to be impossible to quantify at this point in time. It's going to be a decade of discovery to figure out, okay, what are the implications of this and what are the ripple effects? And anyone who says they know, they don't know. Trust me, they don't know. I've done all the possible research I can do, and I just have no freaking clue what that future looks like. All I know is that I feel on a daily basis this urgency to make as much money as possible right now, as much as I possibly can, get invested in the markets, secure the bags, because I don't know what the world looks like in 2 decades from now, even a decade from now. I don't know. And I know that it's more important than ever to be invested, be smart with your money, which leads us to the winners and losers portion of the predictions. I think Tesla will be one of the best investments to hold this year, and I am betting my own money on it. This is my number one stock. I think it has the potential to be one of the first $5 trillion stocks, likely in a race with NVIDIA to secure that spot. I think that Apple will be one of the biggest losers, as this company is priced as a rapidly growing, innovative company, but has not done any of that for many years. And I think that slowly starts to become more and more prevalent this year as new robotics and AI innovations start to enter the market. And Apple, instead of being a leader or someone who's late to the party but tends to do it best, starts to lag behind and not participate in any of this. Now, they might surprise through buyouts or partnerships like the OpenAI partnership, but so far those partnerships have not benefited Apple much, yet the stock continues to climb its way higher and higher to a higher multiple than we've ever seen Apple trade at when they do the least amount of innovation than we've ever seen them do. I know that Google will likely be a big winner in the face of what looks to be a lot of political pressure to split them up. Now, what happens with big monopolies get split up is frequently the parts of the company are worth more than the whole. And I don't think that they're going to break up the web browser portion of Google. I'm looking for them to split the company up in general, which means likely splitting off YouTube, at which point YouTube becomes one of my top 5 holdings in my portfolio. I buy YouTube hand over fist. Now, I also expect SpaceX to get listed in 2025, at which point I also add that to my portfolio. And that adds our wild card for this year's prediction, which is the space sector, satellites. I also expect Coinbase to finally break its IPO high and have another stellar year with maybe even less volatility, as I think MicroStrategy will begin its period of stagnation, where through share dilution, it will stop to have these great trade opportunities because it will no longer have this low stock float. I also think that Carvana will also go bankrupt this year, or be on the path to it. I expect this stock to get hammered to a fraction of its current valuation, likely down to like $60 to $50 a share, at which point it likely gets bought out. And the last thing I predict is more amazing videos from MBT. I did a lot of work on the intro for this. Content like that takes a long time to create, and I did a ton of research for this video and more videos that are going to be coming out this year, such as a deeper dive in the space technology companies, and more videos with our analysts as well, where we do deep dives on companies. We're going to be adding more mentors to our classes. We have private podcasts that we'll be doing for our Discord members. Our business, the business side of things, should go parabolic, but I'm going to be doing tons of more quality content creation. I did more content creation in 2024 than I did in 2023, and I plan to ramp up the quality of that, maybe not and keep the same amount of content creation for 2025. That is my big goal. So I hope you all have also set some 2025 goals. Leave them down in the comments below, and it helps a ton if you like the video, subscribe to the channel, because we're going to have a stellar year in 2025. There's going to be a lot of millionaires, multimillionaires, and billionaires made in 2025. So I hope you're ready for the ride. And as always, God bless.